All right, Mr. Gregory, how you doing today?
I'm doing well.
All right, we seen a lot of allegations in the newspaper, right?
Hmm.
And this is I want to hear your story. You know, from creation to the idea to where we are right now.
Well, when I left City Council, I decided to take a nonprofit that I had incorporated back in 1996. It became dormant. It was called Student Disabilities Advocate, Inc.
Mm-hmm.
And I revived the corporation, put my bylaws in place so that I could represent students with special needs. And then we expanded that in doing the research to homeless, and beyond homeless, we even went to bullying. So we do all three of those things at this point in time. So the corporation was thought of long before I was the president and long before I left. Now I was the architect of EVI, one of the architects. I
Right.
solicited Devin Henson to come in because I'm passionate that there should be a level playing field for kids in our public schools, particularly minorities or poor white, Hispanic, and black kids, because they often go in ill prepared, whether they are special needs or not. So, can you imagine a kid who's been homeless, special needs, and bullied in a school, and they aren't getting the services that the school is supposed to give them? So, we go in and we advocate for those kids.
Why do you do it? Let me ask you. Why did you? Was it something that happened in childhood that like
It's kind of interesting. Even though I would characterize myself as a special needs kid, at that time, the special needs kids were the kids who were more severe in need of supports. But I was a special needs kid. When I moved here from West Virginia, I had a thick tongue, and I guess my words were garbled. In fact, instead of bullying me, I had kids paying me 2 or 3 cents or a nickel to say words because they wanted me to say them. So a teacher came and tapped me on my shoulder one day and said, Theophilus, you have to come and go with us. I went, well, we're going to evaluate you. So they evaluated me, and they said every day, or I had 2 or 3 days, I had to go to a speech therapist to learn how to talk. I did that for 2 years. That's what a special needs child is. If it's empowering their ability to move forth, either from an academic standpoint or from a social standpoint. So I had to go to speech therapy. Fast forward. Now I'm going to say this, and I'm only saying it for the sake of this interview. I adopted two kids. The boy had challenges reading. My wife and I really didn't pursue an IEP or a 504 for him. We paid for the counselor to come in, the reading specialist to come in for 2 years, and he learned how to read. I had a daughter. I thought she needed to be a biological daughter. I thought she needed some supports. They gave her a 504. But when I went through all those dynamics with my kids, I was like, this is challenging. Imagine what I have a law degree. My wife has a master's plus 30 in high school guidance counseling. Those people who don't know just think what the challenges they have. So I became passionate about it in 1996. Didn't pursue it at that time. I don't know what got me distracted to create a nonprofit to advocate on behalf of special needs kids here in the state of Delaware, particularly the city of Wilmington. And then homelessness is another federal law. People don't realize that with homeless kids, if there's a break in continuity, and a kid is homeless, and homeless doesn't mean you're living in your car in a shelter. It's if you don't have a fixed and permanent place to lay your head at night. You could be bouncing around from aunt to aunt, uncle to uncle, temporarily here, temporarily there. And in those circumstances, the school has an obligation to ensure that you have adequate transportation, clothing, food, if you need extra tutoring, extra services. But the school doesn't do that all the time. So we advocate for those kids, and of course, kids who've been bullied, we advocate for kids who've been bullied also. So I do it because I have a passion for kids. I have a passion for doing for kids, and beyond this area, athletics, I've done it, PAL, Moyer Academy. I just think that in coming back into my community with a law degree and a degree from the University of Delaware, my giving back was to ensure that kids had the same opportunities that I had.
And being that you're a man of the community, that growing up in rural West Virginia.
That's right.
We know, I know how that's like.
That's
My
right.
mother's from West Virginia,
Right.
and coming to Wilmington, getting your law degree, and even your office is not in Trolley Square, or it is in the heart of the hood.
I've always been here. I bought this building in 1984, 85.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was the most important thing I could have done in my life other than marry my wife, because I've had a lot of flexibility and a lot of independence of practicing law, not practicing law, being a juvenile public defender, coming back, opening Moyer Academy, coming back, running for president of city council, shutting it, coming back, running for mayor, not being successful, but coming back. But it's good to have an asset that you own like this.
So you always come back to
I always come back to it. I always come back to it. I encourage everybody to buy some property if you want a small office, because this is mine. I can rent it out. At one time, I wasn't renting the building, but this is mine.
Now, let's fast forward to city council president.
Mm-hmm.
You're city council president, and so this discretionary fund.
Right.
Let's talk about that and how that went about, because somewhere along the lines, people, the idea got skewed, and people are thinking, oh, Theo's a crook. He's a crook. And so, what do you have to say about
Well,
that?
I think that some folk think that all black people are crooks. I'm just gonna put it out there. I ain't gonna mince my words, cause you can't do nothing to me. I just think that some folk think that we're all crooks, and we're not. Absolutely not. But let me make it very clear. City council fund. I was under one president, another president, and then I wasn't under the third president. They all had discretionary funds. The first president didn't give a discretionary fund to each council person. He kept it all. So you had to go to him for that discretionary money. The next president, but each president also had a major initiative that they pushed.
Their own initiative.
Their own initiative that they thought was good for the community, advance the community, help sustain the community. My initiative was kids, was disabled kids, homeless kids, and it was kids who've been bullied.
The idea that you had prior to
Right.
you being city council
That's
president.
exactly right. So I recruited Devin. That's exactly right.
Why Devin?
Because he's one of the best advocates around. At that time, I think that on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna facetiously give him a 10 now. I'm gonna give myself an 8.5 because I'm catching up real fast. But the key thing with me is I'm a lawyer. See, and an advocate that's not a lawyer can only go so far. And I watch Devin's tape, but I can go the next step. Because at due process, you got to have a license. Otherwise, you can't go in. So I go in at that point in time. But I'm trying to get back to your question. I'm sorry.
Oh, the question was basically, fast forward, we're here now. You're bringing this dream from this idea that you had to make it concrete now.
One of these days, one of the things that I did as a council president when they did the WEAC, Wilmington Education Improvement Commission, I lobbied into that the need for a education center in the city of Wilmington, advocating for the kids in the city of Wilmington, not just the categories I mentioned, but also public policies, a research and development unit. I envision this building someday to be an education center with units dealing with the 3 I already named, plus looking at best policies and advocating for kids in the city of Wilmington. Across the board, that's what my vision is. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, because I do believe that in order to advance a people, in order to sustain a people, you have to develop people. You have to educate them, you have to train them, you have to develop them. Without doing that, you can talk about all the economic development in the world, but those people who are least and don't have what we have will not get those jobs. So economic development is good, but human development is just as important, if not more important. So I tell folk this, human development, if you develop me and there's no job for me in Wilmington, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going someplace else. But at least I have a fighting chance because I can go somewhere else. But if you don't develop me in Wilmington, I'm not getting a job in Wilmington, and I'm not getting a job anyplace else. Therefore, I'm in the streets. I'm on welfare. I'm doing a lot of negative stuff. So we have an obligation to train and develop and educate people. And I'm talking about poor whites, blacks, and Hispanic kids. We have that obligation. If we don't, we're not holding up to our end of the bargain as human beings.
So when you became president of City Council, that was your chance to develop, to invest in people and develop people.
Absolutely. Let me say this to you. With the discretionary fund, and some council persons say they know, all of them knew. There's an article from May of 2013 was in the paper when I had the dispute with the mayor at that time, and it lays out education voices exactly, talks about the magnitude of it. So for them to say they didn't know, it was disingenuous. Education, Youth and Families Committee, EVI went before them every year. They all got an annual report. I personally walked around and put the annual report on their desk. So they had it. Devin was all over channel 22 and 28. Devin, we had the EVI did a major billboard campaign. So they knew. I don't know why they say they didn't know. They did not know. They did know. And then my philosophy, and they all knew it. They know me. My philosophy was to empower a community. So what I did with the discretionary fund, when I got a chance, I gave it to the little people. But I did this, and this is what the News Journal was after. They thought that I gave it to people who was in a 501c3. But if you were a little person, I said, I want to help you because I like what you're saying. And most of it was kids. You have to go attach yourself to a 501c3. I can't give you the money. I got to give it to a 501c3 that we can hold accountable and there can be transparency. So they first went up there, they were asking about that, and they were surprised that all the folk had a 501c3. So then they turned their gun on something else, and they keep turning their gun on something else. Now I'm told they're getting ready to turn the gun and get nasty on people's personal lives, but I'll leave that and see what that story.
And that has no relevance
no relevance whatsoever.
And it's totally discrediting people in the neighborhood, in our community.
Absolutely.
That really are doing it, been doing what they've been doing.
Absolutely, and it's unfair.
Wow. So let me ask you, cut to the chase. Is what you did wrong on any measure?
Absolutely not. Did you read my Delaware Voice piece? Laid all the particulars out. None. Nothing. Dot the I's and cross the T's, but I think they're probing because there's this notion that we're thieves. No, I'm a professional. And see, I know the intricacies of putting organizations together and making them work, but they can't believe, well, you did this very complex thing. Yes, I did it. Then some people say, there you go saying I. With other people. But I read a lot. And I want to take my, like LeBron James took his skills to Miami, I'm taking my skills to the people in the city of Wilmington, and that's what I've done. So I'm very, very passionate about it. The Powell Center wouldn't be there if it wasn't for me. Moria Academy wouldn't be there if it wasn't for me. Eden Park Athletic Field got renovated into a stadium, wouldn't have happened. P.S. DuPont Athletic Field got renovated 2 times through my leadership. The Greater Wilmington Youth Athletic Association at one time, we did AAU basketball, we did baseball, we did wrestling, weightlifting and conditioning for females, we did track and field, all those things. Some of those programs are already there. I brought them in under an umbrella to give them supports. So they were already existing before me, but I made them stronger, ensuring that they got funding. Traveled all over the country with these kids, doing positive things. But it's key to know I empowered people who had never been empowered before. I empowered people who, like I would tell them, I want to help you. I want to help you because I like your mission, you have the passion, and you have the capacity. And you know what? You look like my mama and daddy. Because if my mama and daddy had knocked on the door and said, can I? Number one, they would have never got to the door. The door would have never been opened. And if they got in, someone would give them lip service for about 2 or 3 minutes and told them they got to leave, and they would have got nothing. So I'm going to help you because you look like me. You look like me. Now, that wasn't just black folk. When I say you look like me, I'm talking about poor folk. Because that's where I came from.
I'm just blown away because hearing your side of the story now versus reading what I read or reading what was out there, I'm seeing that you and Devin and yourself, like, they really care. You guys really care for the community.
Absolutely.
One of the questions that people we're talking about in the street. You know, I'm in the street.
I'm fine.
I hear a
I'm
lot.
fine. I'm fine.
Is the transparency, like when it comes to the $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can you say that every bit of that money was allocated to where it needed to go? And
what I can say to you is this: we gave a grant to EVI, managed by Devin Henson. Okay, we then in the grant had certain benchmarks and stuff that he needed to meet, and he had to give us his minutes and financials and everything. He had an accountant, gave us financial statements before he got his next incremental amount on the grant. That was for all the years. Every year he gave us an annual report with financials in it. So everything is up and up. Did I go up there and hang around the program? No, because it was a standalone 501c3. I wasn't going up there and meddling. If that program was to succeed, it was going to succeed without me. That was not my responsibility to go up there and do that. But I was satisfied that all the paperwork was decent, proper, and in order. Was decent, proper, and in order to give him the next money, and to renew that grant every year. So I'm satisfied.
Now we got that out the way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the success rate of the program.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids? Devin said around about 300 kids you served. The organization served and helped out. What was some of the comments that you got from some of the parents?
Oh, man, let me say this. In each annual report, he had testimonials from parents talking about what a great job that Devin Henson did, okay? But let me also say this, and it's kind of good. As an advocate, non-attorney advocate, a lot of the schools hated to see him come because he's an advocate. You don't necessarily be a nice guy when you're an advocate, but the parents, he did a real good job. He did a real good job. Now, I have to say I'm an attorney advocate, and I'm good at what I do also. I'm touting him, I'm going to tout me, because you say, well, you're in competition. Well, he's on the west side. I'm on the east side. And trust me, there are 18,000 special needs kids in the state of Delaware. There are 4,000 homeless kids in the state of Delaware. I don't know the statistics on bullied kids. And I would venture to say that 18,000 and 4,000 is low. It's a low number. But those kids need to be represented if the school is not doing what the school is supposed to do. They need an advocate. I'm that advocate. You got to understand, there are not but so many lawyers that do what I'm doing. I can name 2 or 3 of them. They specialize in it. So I'm in the game now. But none of them are located in the community. In the community. None of them are. I'm in the community. The only nonprofits is now EVI and SDA. There's a Parent Information Center. They give you information. There's one that specializes in autism. And there's another one, I'm told, downstate. But there are not that many of us. But if you Google advocacy for kids with special needs, I'm telling you, I thought I had a novel idea back in 1996. But every state has a mega organization with satellite organizations that do exactly what I'm doing.
Great.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this, and this is going to come up because it's in the street right now.
Sure.
It's about Hanifa giving. This is what it's saying. Hanifa gave you $40,000 right in March, as soon as she came on.
Mm-hmm.
What is your view on that? What is your
Hanifa Sabaz, I talked to her. Mm-hmm. I said, Hanifa, EVI's out there advocating for kids. I have a model that I want to put in place that I think can sustain itself. As an attorney, I want to continue that advocacy, and what I want to do is this. I can take my attorney's fees that I get from the cases, and guess what? I'm plowing it back into SDA. So eventually, we're going to become self-sustaining. She says, Theo, this program meets with CDC, okay? My vision of the CDC, the value's there, and I like the fact that eventually, if I give you seed money for some period of time, you can become self-sustaining. If I do 50 cases in a year, right? And I average $3,000 attorney's fees for each case, that's $150,000. The parents don't pay me. If you go to a private attorney, you got to get that attorney some money up front. You don't pay me because of the nonprofit aspect of this. You don't pay me. But when I get the money, it's plowed back into EVI. So as a colleague, she sat down with me. As a businessman, I talked to her and we reached an agreement and said, this is a good thing. Now, black folk can't do that. Something's wrong. Something's really wrong with America. Something's wrong.
So again,
that's what we did. Two intelligent people that went to college to understand the dynamics of business, nonprofits, and advocating for people can't sit down and have a business agreement. Something's wrong.
And it's something that, again, that Hanifa has inherited, you know, with her discretionary fund, that she's helping another organization.
That's right. That's right. But let me say this, though. Of the $250, you have $100,000 left over. They want to say that all that was attached to me. No. If council persons came and talked to me or talked to staff and they had a grand idea, they could spend $100,000. And that's what happened. I gave $14,000 to a council person, to a neighborhood association in the 1st Councilmanic District, because they wanted to paint an overpass over I-95 because it had graffiti and stuff on it, and they were challenged getting the money. Okay, fine. Kennedy Park on the west side was short. They needed some money. Okay, fine.
But for real.
Well, I don't like naming that.
No, you don't got any name.
But that's what I did. That's what I did. I put the money out there. But if you look at the documents, beside that money, it's going to say Theo Gregory, because I was managing that with staff. But it wasn't, you can't earmark all that money to me. People traveled. We bought ads. People would say, can we do this deal? And I wasn't selfish. I was not selfish with the balance of the money, because my major initiative was EVI at that time. It was EVI. That's what it was. So I wasn't selfish. I didn't hog the money. But people try to say certain things. But what gets me is the gall, is the people think that I don't have a brain, that I can't put organizations together legitimate to address needs and voids in my community. You don't know how much that makes my skin curl. It just makes my skin curl. I'm going to talk about one other thing. $40,000 the SDA received from January to June of this year did not go to Theo Gregory. There's a rumor that I got a lump sum of $20,000 up front. No. We have paychecks that does our payroll. I'm in there. I get a check. I didn't get the last check because the money's there, but my staff does. I have 2 part-time people working here, and I have 1 intern who's a senior at Wesley College working here, developing and understanding how EVI works. I'm the executive director now. When we were under the PAL, I was a program manager, and thank God PAL let me come up there until I revamped my 501c3 status. It was important that they did that. But I get a salary just like everybody else. Now, I'll just tell you because it's going to be in the paper. I was straight a 4th of January. I'm going to call it back. It's $15,000 of the 40. I got paid every other week. My staff gets paid every other week. I'm the only one that's full-time. My staff is part-time, so we can spread that money out. As of July 1 or September 1, my staff would be full-time. But of course, I need the grant money. I need the grant money.
So again, all this is legitimate.
It's legitimate, absolutely. Look, they are housed here. They don't pay, EVI don't pay me rent, SDA rent, they don't pay me. I pay the electric bill, I pay for the phone, I pay for the insurance on the building. All that's in kind. They pay for a little bit of IT, they pay for a little bit of supplies and materials, but I pay for all of that. I pay for all of that out of my personal monies to make this thing work. I pay for all of it.